whole point of this class is to walk through some of the ideas that in a restaurant situation we would use to come up with a dish. And as there's many ways to come up with a dish that you want to serve at a restaurant as there are people, as there are chefs. So this is just one system of thought that I use when I think of menus. And what I'd like to do is make 2 appetizers today, both with the same protein. So we have whitefish, and we'll kind of all work together on elements of those dishes. I think that sometimes fine dining is seen as this inaccessible ivory tower type experience. And in a place like Stratford, with the range of restaurants that they have and the great producers that we have, we're able to really humanize it and make it an experience that isn't once in a lifetime, or it could be once a month, it could be once a week in some cases.
We're exploring ways to create your own signature dish. I figured I'd jump at the chance to get some free lessons from one of Stratford Chef School's instructors.
So has anybody had whitefish before? It has quite a bit of fat in it. It's like a gelatiny kind of fatty fish. It's suited well to paneing, dipping it in flour or crusting and then frying it that way. It smokes very well, and it also poaches really well because it doesn't dry out. I think we'll do one that we fried in a pan, and then one poached.
I don't have a lot of experience with fish or with seafood, so the fact that we're working with whitefish certainly excites me.
I did a dinner before Christmas. It was a tea-themed menu. We did it at Tea Leaves, and so it was 6 courses, and there was tea in every dish. So that's a great place to start. It's like tea, there's infinite numbers of types of tea, but now I know every dish needs a tea focus. How do I rework tea? What flavors of tea will work with what ingredients? So it just gives you a starting point. Because we have so many things available to us, that's what I need to start off. Today we'll say we have one protein, so it's whitefish. So this class, I thought I want to teach to people that have some experience in food and maybe an interest on a little higher level. And so what do I spend a lot of time doing, and and that was thinking about dishes and how to create a good dish, and kind of the philosophies and overarching ideas that go into it. I think the most important thing in a restaurant setting is, what is the style of your restaurant? So what is the style? Are we cooking Italian food? Are we cooking kind of modern fine dining? Is it Tex-Mex? What are you doing? So in the restaurant situation, you have to have the whole package work together. The food has to suit the room and the type of customer that you have or trying to attract. Then the next thing is ingredients, and that's what, when we go today, what's going to influence our choices of what we're making is going to be what's available to us, which is how you cook, but also how much time do we have. We're going to have an hour to make these 2 dishes, so that's time, and your limitations of how you have to execute are very important. There's a lot of condiments. I don't usually use other people's condiments in cooking, but when you have an hour, it's quite helpful. Obviously, color is coming into play here. You discuss the palette of color that he's using here. So color is huge. And you look at the beets, and there's some different textures of beets here. There's roasted beets, there's pickled beets that are raw, and then there's this is a caraway tuile, so a thin, very super thin cookie baked and then punched into that circle. So color, texture, shape. You see that obviously everything on this dish is round, and that's an aesthetic choice. He could have done squares, and next week he might. Then obviously the massive one is taste. So taste we can go into as we do different elements of what we're making today, but taste is a subjective thing, but there are classic examples of dishes that have worked for centuries. This is one of them. Goat's cheese, beets, that's a classic combination. If they came away with a better appreciation of the amount of thought that goes into a dish in a restaurant setting, both in the context of the elements on the plate and also in a larger context of how it fits into the restaurant or into the menu of the restaurant. And if they can do that in their own cooking, that would be amazing. That would be a win. If they can recognize it in other people's cooking, I think is also a skill they'll be able to take away. So today we're going to kind of worry about color, temperature, texture, taste, and contrast. And then what can we do with what's available in the market? So it's we'll probably penne a piece and we'll poach a piece. So right there, what do we have? Two contrasting textures. This will be crunchy. This will be soft. This will be kind of more fatty. This has it's fatty and rich in a way because it's fried in oil, but this will have more kind of a luxurious feel, whereas this is obviously the crisp factor. So when we put other things with these, we will consider that as we'll start to try to contrast and build off of those two ideas. Generally, when you poach fish, it's in a acidulated liquid so that it gives some flavor, usually a fair bit of salt or acid in the liquid, so that flavor penetrates and livens up the fish, because just plain flat poached fish wouldn't be that nice. So we've got this kind of slightly acidic, rich fish. What kind of textures do we want to start building onto there? Pesto? Something crunchy? Yep. So something crunchy. This, maybe we want to put something soft. As we go out there, we'll start to kind of fit ingredients into where the slot. So crunchy, poached. It's rich, it's got some fattiness to it, so maybe something acidic. And as pan-fried, the same, lemon and fish. We have such great products here in Perth County and in Ontario, and Canadian made, and they're all available here. So it really is, it's like a kid in a candy shop running through, picking things off the shelf, and being able to cook with such a wide range of ingredients. And they're good ingredients, because that's what matters. You know, it's 90% of what makes a good dish is the ingredient. And the work of the chef is only that other 10 or less percent. Okay, so we're gonna say mushrooms. So we'll clean them up and we'll saute them in a pan. We'll add some heavy cream, some butter, maybe a bit of that smoked salt, and some bacon. And that'll be this kind of rich, meaty thing that will balance with the poached fish. So we need then something, I think, to lift that whole thing up. So we've got these kind of I think of things in weight. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but that's heavy. So then we want something, boom, to lift it up, some kind of high melody floating thing above us. So we'll say the jalapenos will have some of that. And right now there's not a ton of color on that dish, so we need to start working in some bright, I think the arugula. Still needs something colorful. We've got green, brown, and white. So tomatoes. So we've got red, green, we've got fresh, we've got spicy, we've got this basey mushroom thing, and we have kind of our acidic and rich mouthfeel of the fish.
His approach is very much trying to feel out the ingredients that you have and working with them. He's trying to show a lot of how to go ahead and balance ingredients, to classify them into different categories, and then to work with it to try and piece something together.
Visualizing the end product and how it's going to go together is important. Like a lot of chefs start with the lists, but also with drawings, because you're thinking about, it's useless to cook something when you don't know how it's going to end up, because you can make a lot of wrong decisions through the way that are shutting doors on certain, like if we cut the pepper one way and in the end I decided, oh, we need it another way, it's too late, you can't go back.
We're doing a lot of things to bring together different textures and different flavors and balance them off of each other. So trying to pair crunchy with soft, sweet with sour, and that end of things. Trying to create an artful dish as well. The ideas behind plating and portioning, trying to size things out and make something look as good, if not better than it tastes.
So we'll try to keep everything on this plate just really tight. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 8 elements, you know, those all have to be quite small. And the shape that we'll use will kind of come from the vegetables themselves. So like the peppers will kind of guide us in how we shape them.
So cooking and how to present something on a plate and what to think about when you're putting a meal together. Yeah, I'm gaining skills in that regard.
We took humble ingredients like beets or peppers and tried to elevate them through some really careful preparation. The fish is the next thing we might put on. No, I'm going to break it up into big kind of organic, flaky chunks. It is an appetizer. If this was a main course, I might do it a little differently. You want something that you can cut into. Oh, oh, oh. You work as clean as you can so that the you don't spend a lot of time cleaning the plate. That just slows you down when you're trying to put out the food. You don't sit back in your office and plan the menu and dictate what is brought to you. You have to go out and see what's available, and you react to ingredients instead of them reacting to you. I think that's a much more honest and accessible way of cooking. And you want to build like layers into things, so I'll probably put the oyster mushrooms on next, but to give it some height on top of other things. Arugula. It's our kind of crunch texture. And it has a nice kind of spattered visual as well. So that's one version of plating this thing. Let's eat it. We need spoons. People get hung up on fine dining as inaccessible, but in fact, it is, when it's done really well, very accessible and speaking directly to the audience. It's a chance to use food to communicate with people and communicate about your personality as a chef, but also about the place that you're in. When you have that story and that fact of the local ingredients and local people producing the food, both cooks and producers, it just makes it so rich and so accessible that you're supporting your community by eating fine dining instead of, it's not this elitist separate thing that is not for regular life. Because in the end, it's food, and it's food that's celebrating what's good in the area and celebrating the community, and it builds everyone up.